Docking clamps clanged like a coffin lid. Colonel Vedrick Strath didn't flinch. He just ground his molars through the pressure shift and watched the readout settle. Zero drift, stable lock, everything working exactly as it was supposed to, except the people. Welcome to Ætherion Ascendant, Solar Command Node Alpha, the voice chimed, synthetic and bright. Please have your identification credentials and loyalty statements prepared. Strath muttered, "Eat me." The hatch slid open before full decompression. 2 admin officers stepped aboard, stiff in freshly ironed uniforms, and clearly rehearsed for a very different kind of arrival. He waved them off before they could open their mouths. No briefings, no tour, no mission statements. You want this lattice built before it fries your investors' launch pads. I need a console, a private uplink, and 10 minutes without hearing the word synergy. One of them blinked. The other smirked and gestured toward the corridor. The station interior gleamed like it had something to prove. Glass where steel would do. Gold trim on the archways. Holograms of lattice deployment cycling in perfect, looping optimism across wall panels. The lighting was turned into a wavelength meant to boost morale. It made Strath's head ache. Ætherion Ascendant. Christ. It was a name you gave a luxury yacht or a religion, not a solar command center. Auranox's fingerprints were all over it. Overdesigned, overbranded, and overconfident. Strath paused at a viewport. Outside, Mercury burned. The lattice had begun to grow. Skeletal satellite nodes extending into a halo around the sun's proximity, each one unfolding like the petal of some cosmic machine flower. The math was sound, the engineering was beautiful, but the purpose? That was starting to rot. He kept walking. In Central Ops, he dropped his gear next to an unused terminal and keyed in with an authorization code so old it still had dust from Earth on it. Strath, Colonel Vedrick. Echo clearance, Combat Engineering Corps, Provisional Command. A brief pause. Then, access granted. He exhaled through his nose. A message icon blinked. From his son. Delayed by Earth-Mercury comlac, but flagged for priority. Strath hovered over it, jaw tight. No subject line. No preview snippet. Just a waiting rectangle of unread emotion. Not yet. Not until he knew more. He flagged it for later, then pulled up the full station dossier. Ætherion Ascendant, Solar Command Node Alpha. Commissioned 3.5 years ago, Earth Standard. Lead Administrative Authority, Director Orlin Cass. Energy Oversight Allocation. Tiered authorization, segmented by phase. Infrastructure model. Our NX Modular Adaptive Shell. Civic Access Tier restricted. Legacy Interface controlled. Personal notes, empty. Strath frowned. Legacy interface meant someone had locked sections of the build under proprietary firmware. Probably Auranox's doing. And the shell designation? RNX? Of course the bastard named the infrastructure after himself. He pulled the schematics deeper, tracing power routes and looking for bottlenecks. Lines were clean. Data buffers were saturated. The system was running on rails. That wasn't good. Nothing built by committee should be this smooth, unless it was already too late to change it. He scrolled through the core routing map again, eyes narrowing. The RNX designation repeated across subsystem clusters. Not just hardware shells, but in firmware hierarchies, diagnostic packages, even the AI's training kernel. He followed one chain deeper, an access tier labeled pre-coded exec, restricted, non-military override required. That shouldn't exist. Not in a system with this level of global infrastructure. No civilian override should supersede engineering control, especially not in a platform built to manage the sun. He started a route trace. The cursor blinked, nothing returned. Access denied. Legacy key required. He leaned back in the chair. Legacy, he said aloud, bitter. That's one way to spell ownership. Just as he started to fire off a local mirror to dig under the lock, the door to the ops base slid open with a hush in a footfall pattern far too confident to be enlisted. A voice followed, smooth, clear, too polite. Colonel Strath. Pardon the intrusion, sir. I'm Lieutenant Hawley, your executive adjutant. The director is ready for your initial debrief. He's been made aware of your recent arrival window and hopes to speak before orbital shift begins. Strath didn't look away from the screen. Does he know I just got off of a 5-day drift with 1 meal, no sleep, and a re-entry decel that turned my spine into scrap metal? There was a pause. Hallie smiled like she'd been trained not to flinch. He does, sir, and he said you'd probably say that. Strath finally turned. The XO was young, too young for her rank, which meant she had connections, or worse, endorsements. But her posture was solid, Navy precise, Space Force, probably, New School. She carried herself like someone who still believed the system could be fixed from the inside. Poor thing. Tell him I'll be there in 10, Strath said. Hallie nodded. Of course, sir. I'll walk with you. He glanced back at the terminal. The cursor still blinked. The lock still held. The message from his son hovered in the corner, waiting, like the sun, like everything. 10 minutes, he said again, not 11. The conference chamber was round and spotless, projecting authority without purpose. A polished floor reflected the hovering hollow interface like a pool. Cass's image resolved with lifelike clarity. Posture sharp, suit tailored, voice calibrated for command. Colonel Strath, there he is, the man behind the miracle. Strath approached the console without acknowledging the outstretched hand. The projection flickered slightly as he passed through it. Cass lowered the arm without missing a beat. You're just in time. We're ahead of phase deployment. He hesitated for half a second, then continued confidently. The lat work is blossoming beautifully. Strath arched an eyebrow. You mean it's extending solar nodes in formation, like it was designed to? Cass grinned. Exactly. Harmony through infrastructure. That's the language of progress. Sure, Strath said. Except when that harmony starts singing someone else's anthem. Cass waved a hand, pulling up a glossy render of the Lumen system. Lines of gold and white arcing around a stylized sun. The light we share blinked beneath it in soft serif font. This isn't just about power, Colonel. It's about legacy, a new standard for civilization. Strath scanned the image. So why are there civilian firmware locks embedded in Phase 3 deployment tiers? Why is there a proprietary shell wrapped around the routing protocols? Cass chuckled. Well, that's just layered oversight. Ensures continuity across partner stakeholders. Ensures control, Strath corrected. Cass paused. His projection adjusted subtly, as if stepping forward, trying to shrink the artificial gap. The illusion almost worked. Almost. Colonel, Cass said, voice softening. I hope you know how much your presence means here. You're the final touch, the closer. When we switch this thing fully live, history remembers you. Strath looked at him flatly. I didn't come here to be remembered. I came here to build something that works. And right now, this system answers to people who don't know what it even does. We all play our part, Cass said. Some of us build it, Strath replied. Others slap a logo on it. He terminated the feed. Cass's face froze for half a second, then disappeared. Strath stood alone again. Exactly how he liked it.
Shout out to my sponsor, W Energy. energy drink of the future.